Hello, my name is Laquita Span, and my group members are Khadijah Hubbard, Jasmine Robb, and Lamikia Bowman. And the topic that we chose to present is emotional and psychological abuse. It's a video linked that shows what emotional and psychological abuse looks like.
Walk away.
I don't want to talk to you when you're like this.
Well, go then. I'm not
help.
away from you. You see what you've done this time? This is all your fault. You're ruining this family. You're so bloody selfish.
Wait a minute. Let's have a read, shall we?
Get back, Tom.
He says I'm really mature for my age. Loser, more like.
Please,
Is this
stop
your
it.
boyfriend? He sits next to me in English classes. What boy would want to sit next to you? I can't believe you write this drivel. It's pathetic. Pathetic.
Do you think I'm here to clear up after you? You're useless. Do you know that? She's not here anymore, is she? To look after you. And it's not my job. Grow up, you worthless idiot!
Whether it's words, constant criticism, or even a silence, if you hear it often enough, you might start to believe it. This is emotional abuse. If it's happening to you, don't ignore it. You can talk to Childline.
What is emotional and psychological abuse? Psychological abuse, also known as emotional abuse, involves a person acting in a way to control, isolate, and/or scare someone. Emotional abuse may be statements, threats, actions, and/or patterns of irregular behavior. Who are the abusers? The abusers can be anybody: co-workers, parents, caretakers, friends, significant others, and spouses. What does this abuse look like? The items below list are signs that a person can look for in an abusive person. The first one is control. An abuser can be controlling. They will tell somebody what to do, where to go, who to interact with. Those are controlling behaviors. Shame. Shame is making somebody feel bad. They will ask a specific person to do something, and if the results does not match, then they will have these outbursts yelling at them and saying bashful things that make them feel bad. Blame is when the abuser blames the other person for things that does not even make sense, that's not true, making them believe statements that are not true. Humiliation. That is when the person bashes the person in front of public people, around friends, just saying hurtful statements in front of them to make them feel bad in front of others. Unpredictability. Unpredictability is when a person is good one moment and then the next moment they'll lash out. They're angry. They're yelling. They're fussing. They're picking arguments with you. It's unpredictable. Their mood is. Isolation. Isolation is when the abuser says you cannot go over to your friend's house, or you can't go to your mom's house. You can't spend time with those that you'll want to spend time with. They're trying to isolate you from the real world.
Hi, this is Lamika. I'll be talking about the causes of emotional abuse and who is doing the abuse. Abuse can come from a significant other, a spouse, a caretaker, parent, or a co-worker. The abuse mostly comes from somebody that you're close to. And these relationships don't start off abusive. It develops over a period of time. It can come from a number of reasons. Stress is increased and patience is lost. It could be unhealthy role models, bad parenting, unresolved problems that the abuser is facing, and insecurities that can cause abuse.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Robb, and I will be presenting the effects of emotional abuse. The first effect is numbness. It's when a person has no feelings at all, they don't feel anything good, and they don't have any bad feelings, but the trauma is still affecting them. The second effect of emotional abuse is aggression. Aggression is being hostile or violent or having violent behavior. The third effect of emotional abuse is substance use. Substance use is due to a person experiencing emotional trauma will cause them to abuse things such as alcohol, drugs, and things of that nature. The next thing would be sleep disorder. Sleep disorder is basically due to a person not wanting to think about the trauma they have experienced for themselves, so they sleep all the time, which then causes them to have nightmares about emotional trauma that they have experienced. The next one would be trust issues. Trust issues is when a person has been emotionally abused and it is hard for them to put trust in someone, and sometimes they find themselves seeking validation from other people. The next one would be underperformance. When someone has been emotionally abused, it is hard for them to perform in work or school due to the lack of confidence that they now have due to the trauma that they have experienced. Last but certainly not least is anxiety, depression, and suicidal. Being emotional abused will cause a person to be nervous and feeling self-worthless.
My name is Khadija Hubbard, and I'm going to discuss ways to cope with the emotional abuse as well as interventions. I identified 7 ways a person can cope with the emotional abuse. Number 1, understand the abuser. Sometimes changing the way you view the abuser can give you insight into coping with the abuse. Often abusers are insecure, anxious, or depressed, and remember that will help you keep the abuse in its proper context. Always remember the abuse is about them and not about you. Number 2, stand up to the abuser. Emotional abusers don't like to be challenged and may back down if someone challenges their abusive tactics. Number 3, find positive ways to interact with the abuser. If you can handle the abuser in its natural way, then you may be able to see the positive in the abuser and find new ways to interact with them that is positive. Finding positive ways to interact with the abuser is mostly seen in workplace environments. Number 4, putting up boundaries. Whether a person put up physical distance or emotional distance is the key when it comes to toxic people. Setting up boundaries is about reducing the ammunition and opportunity you provide to the toxic person to inflict damage. Putting up boundaries can be done while still in a close relationship with the abuser. Number 5, work on your self-esteem. Strengthening your sense of self will be the greatest weapon you have against a toxic influence. Developing a good understanding and acceptance of your talents and weaknesses, a person becomes less susceptible to the self-image that the toxic person is trying to impose. One way to build self-esteem is to focus your attention on your talents. Number 6, detach yourself from the situation. When dealing with a toxic person, you will want to keep yourself in a natural setting, only responding enough to satisfy the toxic person while not actually engaging emotionally. When you are triggered to feel anger, try to postpone that feeling for now and bring it down. Deal with the anger once you have left the situation. By neutralizing your emotional response, you do not let the toxic person know that you are triggered. And number 7, doing reality checks. It is important to remind yourself of what is normal and what is real. The reality that the toxic person creates is neither. The abuser will make every attempt to have in your life and the negative reality they created for you. You must remain grounded and finding someone to confide in. For a large part of coping will be understanding and maintaining your grip on actual reality. Interventions. The interventions that I have listed is able to help people with treating psychological and emotional abuse. Treatment for emotional and psychological abuse. Emotional abuse treatment has a better chance of being successful, but only if the victim is prepared to be open and honest about the abuse. When seeking treatment for emotional and psychological abuse, it is important to remember the abuse is not your fault and you did nothing wrong. Feeling guilt and shame over the abuse is normal. The desire to hide the details of the abuse is normal. And if you're still with the abuser, it is okay to get help. Types of treatment that can help a person deal with emotional abuse. Individual therapy, group therapy, journaling, psychotherapy, also known as talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and somatic therapy. It helps individuals by having that one-on-one time with the therapist and being able to identify coping mechanisms as well as triggers. Therapy can help people overcome obstacles to their well-being and increase positive feelings. Group therapy helps people improve their mental health by having a therapist to talk with, as well as others in the group who are experiencing similar situations. Group therapy helps people work towards and meet many goals. Journaling. Keeping a journal can help with your thoughts and feelings and emotions. Oftentimes, therapists use journaling as a homework tool so that people are able to write down their thoughts and feelings when they're not sitting with a therapist. Psychotherapy, also known as talk therapy, is another form of individual therapy. With talk therapy, a therapist and a client will sit down and discuss the client's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, as well as triggers and coping ways to overcome the abuse. Cognitive behavioral therapy. When working with a cognitive behavioral therapist can be extremely empowering as we learn to take control of our negative thinking traps. Instead of our thoughts and patterns controlling us, armed with our cognitive skills, we can then go back to situations or places we have avoided and practice our cognitive skills. But remember though, it takes time and practice, as well as more practice. Somatic therapy. The main goal of somatic therapy is recognition and release of physical tensions that remain in the body in the aftermath of a traumatic event. The therapy sessions typically involves the patient tracking down his or her experience of sensations throughout the body. Depending on the form of somatic psychology used, sessions may include awareness of body sensations, dance, breathing, techniques, voice work, physical exercise and movement, and healing touch.